Howdy. Oh, come on in. You don't want to join us. I said hi and he ran away. Come on down, Michelle. There are pens and some chapstick and a one-pager about families together. These are cool pens.
Yes. Ooh. See?
Are they birdie pens?
Are they black in here? What color do you want?
Let's see, are they black or blue?
I don't know that. They're usually black. They're usually black. I've got those.
Hey!
Hello.
Yes.
Glad you're joining us.
I got embroiled in the poster thing.
I stayed away because of that. And I know a couple of people who said they were coming, and they're probably there too, so.
Yeah, because I mean, and they're so excited to tell you about their posters, so you can't just walk away.
Walk away, yeah. Hi.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming to today's session. I just wanted to remind you before Leah starts, can you guys make sure you fill out the survey, either the paper or the QR code, please? Your turn.
Ah, you didn't give me. You didn't give me. All right. Yeah, Michelle is has become a friend. She's a family that we worked with. I have had the honor of working with her, so it's kind of nice to see her step into this. So, how many of you guys are parents? Okay, professionals or both? Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. So, how many of you guys have like little kids? Let's say, when I say little, what are you thinking? 2? Yep, little.
Yeah, I have a kindergartner.
Kindergarten, little, yep.
I have both of those.
You have what?
I have both of those.
2 and a kindergarten? Okay, wow. How about you guys, other parents? What? How old?
19.
19?
13.
13?
13 and 16.
13 and 16?
14 and 20.
14 and 20, and you are?
My grandchild is 9.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for being here. And what brings you here?
I actually work in ABA.
Okay, nice, excellent. So you work with all of
Yes,
them.
I work with as young as 2 and as old as 26. So pretty wide
Nice, nice. All right, well, my name is Leia Holley, and I am honored to be here. I'm here to tell you our story, to walk through the journey, which has been an interesting, long, challenging, celebrating, lots of stuff happening. And I want to try to share that, but I want to share some of the strategies that we've used to move from that isolation of autism, of that diagnosis and the behaviors, to connections in our community and connection with my son, even. Go ahead, Leslie. So first off, I am married to my husband of 35 years, and he was active duty up until about 8 years ago. And so I was single mom most of the time the boys were growing up, because Sean is now 33 and his brother is 34. So I have Sean, and then I have an older child who's 15 months older, JP. And so I wanted to show you this quick video clip. Come this way, JP. Walk towards mommy. Not yet, Sean.
switch it up.
So as we pulled that out, when we watched that and when other people watched it, Sean was a toddler, typical toddler. JP, on the flip side, was really struggling with language. And so we had some language issues, concerns there. No concerns whatsoever about Sean at that point. And our house at that point was like, our house at that point, we lived in Fort Hood, Texas. We were doing walks, we had play in the park, we had every mom and their kids were in our house. And I mean, it was Kid Central. And we had a community there. I mean, I grew up in Oklahoma, so my family wasn't there. So we built a community. And then this happened. Do we draw too? Oh, big yawn, you had a big yawn. Want to chop? This is about 8 months difference. What are you talking about? And so you guys know autism, you see it. I thought he was going deaf. You know, he wouldn't respond. The only time he responded is if we sang. He did not respond to his dad's voice at all, which was really hard for my husband because he's gone a lot and now his son is completely disconnected from him. And so we were seeing a lot of challenges related to eating non-edibles. I mean, I'm getting going to the bathroom wherever he felt. You
How
know,
old was he here?
he was 18 months when he started to regress.
My
So-
son was 14, and doctors don't believe you, or at least they didn't back then.
Yeah, no,
So anyways,
well,
go ahead.
and they didn't. The pediatrician, when we went to see the pediatrician, he said, "Can he stack blocks?" And I'm like, "Sure," because he had. He didn't say, "Can he stack blocks today?" You know, does he play with his brother today? So we're juggling the emotions of watching him regress and connecting with trying to find people who can help us. The infant toddler came out, did their evaluation, speech therapist did, and she said, we need to do some further testing. I get a letter in the mail saying, we're going to send you to KU to rule out autism. That's the first time I ever heard the word autism, other than Rain Man. And so we go to KU, and the neurologist, because we saw a pediatric neurologist, I'm trying to figure out why he regressed. Why did I lose my kid? Because that's what I felt like I'd lost him into this world. And the neurologist said he will never talk, he will never have make eye contact, he will never be a functioning member of your family. Be prepared to put him in an institution. Go ahead. So, okay. I picked my baby up, carried him out of that room, which we had been waiting 2 hours to see this doctor, to see him for 2 minutes to tell me this. I picked him up. I had previously, before I had the boys, been a high school math teacher. I had substituted in those classes where those kids were in the basement. Nobody knew about them. You know, they didn't even eat lunch with their peers. I had a girl graduated with me. I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. They shoved her in front of me and said, this is Cindy, she's 21, she's got to graduate. I'd never seen Cindy in my life. And I'd been in that school since I was in 3rd grade. And so I promised Sean in that moment, you will not be one of those kids. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I didn't even know what autism was. I just knew that he was not going to be one of those kids. So we get back to Junction City, Fort Riley area, and I'm going to these parent support groups, and there's a group in Manhattan that is dead set on getting ABA in the schools. We even went to Manhattan, or to Lawrence, I'm not dishing ABA here, okay? But we went to Lawrence, and they were touting this new autism ABA program in their schools. And they took us into a gym and said, you can't pick out the kid with autism. I'm like, he's the one that's running STEM, you know, it's like, yeah, you can. And they had a bathroom where The teacher was sitting on the toilet and a student, she was working one-to-one with a student. That was his classroom because they were out of space. And so I go to this parent support group, and the parents, when I said, we're not gonna fight for ABA, we're gonna do bits and pieces of what works for Sean at this point. I don't need another battle. Right now I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my kid. Pick my battles. Parent looks at me and said, if you don't do ABA 40 hours a week, he will be in an institution. I saw her about 10 years later, and her son is in Parsons State Hospital. And they paid for ABA in the basement, but he wasn't a part of the family. So then, you know, here we are, my doors are shut. Before that, I had been the perfect officer's wife, doing all the officer's wife things, which I hated because I'm a farm girl. We don't do that kind of stuff. I don't collect Hummels and baskets. And so as we're, you know, going through this, we're searching for medical answers. Realistically, I'm trying to find a cure. I'm trying to fix my kid. To be honest, that's what we were trying to do. And then we're trying to navigate that early childhood and those educational settings. And I'm by myself. The infant toddler have given me a book to say, here's some numbers, call these numbers. And so I'm making all those phone calls and calling them and everything else. All the while, I'm navigating sibling, you know. Sean's eating JP's board books. He's standing in JP's fish tank, throwing fish in the air, going, swim in the water, swim in the water. And I'm trying to explain to JP while attending to both of these guys by myself. And then, you know, my own personal needs. When I needed space, I would sit in the bathroom in the corner and cry as both boys were in the bathtub because there wasn't that support. We had disconnected. I had my best friend move from Texas to Fort Riley. We had spent years there together, and now she's at Fort Riley and she's calling me and I'm refusing to answer the call. She is gonna judge me. People judge me because I'm not a good parent. I can't parent my kid. Okay, Leslie. Oh, this is my great friend and boss, Leslie Gerard. She's a co-executive director for Families Together. But so, and the reason I pointed her out at this point, I called every number in that book that the infant toddler gave me. Wrong number, you make too much money, you live on the wrong county, he's too old, he's too young, you don't have the right insurance, you know it, you guys have navigated it. I called Families Together. I can still hear Bonnie Penny's voice. I don't remember very many names, but that voice. And I said, my son is autistic. I don't know what to do. And she said, well, tell me about it. And she said, no, don't tell me about it. As I'm saying, well, he pees in the corner and he runs away and he does this. No, tell me about him. Well, he really likes Wheel of Fortune. He's a really good climber. So she pulled me back to thinking of him as a little boy. And then she said, you know, there's another mom that I'd like you to talk to because her kid also does some of those same things. And I said, no, you don't understand. He's the only one. He's autistic. We lived on Milford Lake. There was nobody with autism back then. There was, but you know, they're all hidden. And so that call sent us on a trajectory towards, we were an autistic family. Prior to that, everything revolved around the disability and what he couldn't do. Started us on that path of looking at what he can do, who he is, and what we as a family, yeah, we're a family with some quirky needs, and there's some autism mixed in there. But we had to get back to the family. Okay. And so, again, ABA, right? Got to do 40 hours of ABA. I can't afford it. TRICARE won't pay for it. Our insurance wouldn't pay for it. Our insurance wouldn't pay for speech therapy for a nonverbal 2-year-old because he can communicate with his peers. So I'm fighting the insurance for speech therapy. So I I called this specialist in Colorado. There weren't very many people in Kansas that I knew of who were doing ABA. So I called this specialist and I'm talking to her and I said, I can't afford it. And she said, you need to be his mom. And I said, but he needs help. He's all over the place. Nobody can figure out how to teach this kid. And she said, take a dot and put it on a cup. So we took a dot and put it on a cup. Magic marker, boom. Take his hand and point. And every time he points at that dot, he gets what's in it. So candy corn, to this day, this guy loves candy corn. So it's like this. So we ate a lot of candy corn for a while. But then we had dots on everything in the house. Up to that point, the early intervention team, the speech therapist and the teacher coming into the house said, we don't know how to help him. We can't even keep him in the room. And we barricaded and everything else. We don't know what to do. So when I taught him with that dot, it was like one repeatable skill, one thing that he can learn. Okay? Then he's sitting on my chest, and I'm laying on the couch just trying to get just breathe for a minute because he's not running. And so we're singing and everything, and then I'm listening to, hey, give me a high five, give me a high five. And so we start doing the high five. And then it got to the point where when his speech therapist comes in, not his speech therapist, his teacher comes in, I said, ask him for 5. And she's like, what? Give me 5, Sean. He comes running over and she's like, oh my God, you may. And so here I am teaching the specialist how to do it. And music, we kind of stopped the music thing. We started seeing a private speech therapist who told me years later that Sean was the first kid she ever thought about giving up on. But we started using music. Music's in a different area of the brain, guys. You sing it, to this day, we sing it. And he gets it. And and then this picture on the right is the occupational therapist who taught me about sensory, proprioceptive, interoceptive, touch, all of these different sensory systems. If you as a parent don't know that, find somebody or read about it because it affects every avenue of our child's life. And for me to be able to move as a military parent and say he needs to swing, well, every kid needs to swing. No, he needs to swing because of his vestibular system. It's like, oh, okay, you know your stuff. So here we are in preschool. This kid is all over the place, okay? He's sitting on the playground trying to eat rocks. He's dripping them on his head and all of this stuff. The teacher, I love her, but her hands are full. She didn't have enough support. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I drive up one day and he's hanging nude from the monkey bars. I call families together and say, what do I do? How do I help this teacher? I got the words I needed to say, really didn't fully understand at that point. I just needed the words. I got the words I needed to say to the IEP team, which went to the administration, to get the teacher she needed, the support she needed, and get that extra para in there because he wasn't safe. And so that was my second phone call to families together. And then we've gone through, I'm not even going to go in, every one of these is like a story in itself, but Sean had pancreatitis because we were doing high-dose steroids. We found out that he has regressive epileptic autism spectrum disorder, meaning he would have seizures at night that causes him to regress and lose skills. He'd have a skill, then he would lose it. We didn't know he's having seizures. I'm sleeping with the kid, but we're searching. So we have him on high-dose steroids. We're finally get him to Children's Mercy away from the military doctors and find out he had, if we hadn't gotten him there, we'd have lost him that night. Then he had brain surgery, 3 10-hour brain surgeries when he was 5 to help stop those seizures. And things were good for a while as far as seizures were concerned. So everything is great. We have a classroom at the elementary school. He's in kindergarten. And we did kindergarten twice because the first time we tried kindergarten, the teacher compared him to an animal in her classroom. And it was the first time my husband ever had to restrain me. So we've got a great teacher. They're using ABA in the classroom. He's in a special ed classroom, but going into the general ed classroom some. So we're making progress. But now the Army says, you gotta move. And this was a very few months after the brain surgery. So the boys were gonna attend together. Sean was gonna go to the same school. He was not gonna be one of those kids. We wanted an inclusive school and community. I did not want a military population because it was transient. I wanted people in his life and my life. And we used Ellen Arwood's visual language method, cartooning and all these visual language. And I had met a teacher at a conference in Bonner Springs, and she was where we were going. The community was right, everything was right. We finally figured it out. Had to have a soccer team. We have to include JP in this planning. Has to have a soccer team. Turns out it had to have a hockey team too. And then we needed staff who understood sensory needs, and my husband was gonna have to travel, so he gave me a 30-minute radius around Leavenworth, and I hit the edge. And I hit the edge with it. So go ahead, Leslie. Families Together comes in to help us with this transition, because we can have all of this great information. The IEP can be written perfect, guys, but that's not my kid. That's a plan. So we did person-centered planning. And if you haven't done person-centered planning with your kid, do it with your adult even. So we got everybody together and we talked about his strengths and his needs, and we talked about our dreams and our nightmares. And Families Together at that point facilitated it, and we still do that because I also have the honor of working for Families Together now. But so if you go ahead and hit that. So as we're preparing for the move, if you look at this, the needs aren't he needs to stop biting, he needs to stop hitting. They are he needs a team that collaborates, he needs a language-based program. They are positive strategies that we need to be able to help him learn. And so I take this box of stuff to the teacher in Bonner Springs, put it on her desk, and I said, here you go. He's the perfect kid. I'm the perfect mom. Of course, I kind of sold him as a peer model when we're talking. He's laying in that first IEP meeting on the floor. What was it? What to you, what to you, what to you, as fast as I don't know what that said, but saying it fast. So the administration's saying he needs to go to Wyandotte County, to KCK, because that's where those kids go. So go ahead, Leslie. So now we are caught up in a disaster. I'm crying. My husband is angry. Go ahead, Leslie. Our world is shrinking. I have no friends. I don't know where to get my hair cut. My kids are pretty much locked in the house. We don't go for walks. We don't go out to eat. All of these adult issues are happening. And my kid is down here as we're fighting. He's regressing. So we had to figure out what the next step was. Well, the next step for me, we filed due process and civil rights violations. Things got worse. My husband's angry because he bought a house. We could have gotten a house in Leavenworth County twice as big with less taxes. So all of this is happening and my kid is losing. I am told I am not allowed in the building without an escort. Guess what? I can't go to my older son's Valentine's Day party without somebody standing next to me, just because I made the teacher cry. So what did I do? Good, I think. Yeah, I called Families Together for one. How do we build this team? What do we do? Oh my God, guys, this is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. I called the teacher because I knew she cared about him. And I tell families, look for that one person where your kid is right here. I called her and I said, can we start over? Can we start over? And that was during the summer. So we started working on our relationship and started working as a team, because due process is not an overnight procedure, and we're living in a town. I'm burning every bridge known to man. So we start, and Families Together helped me understand my rights, because prior to this, sure, I was armed, guys. I'd gone to Families Together's law training. Leslie had done. Leslie was at Families Together when I called, so she's probably one of the people I talked to that talked me off the cliff. She is the person who told me to quit sending those flaming letters. Yep, she did. So, but we had to learn strategies for working as part of the team. Guys, we are all great coaches. I can tell you what to do, but we got to be great cheerleaders. We got to thank them for little things, not like I was doing. Thanks for saying hi to Sean, but why did you do this? So we had outside assistants come in, an autism specialist come in, observe. She said the exact same thing the team was saying and I was saying. We were fighting over a visual schedule being vertical versus horizontal. This was adult issues. This was not. And guys, we have to breathe. I finally got to a point, one of the strategies I learned from those calls with Families Together is when somebody called me and said something happening at school, I would say, oh, really? So I could take a deep breath before I responded, because my first instinct is mama bear's coming out. And so, go ahead, Leslie. So we rebuilt that team. One of the things we did, again, and there's I'm going to give you a link with a Padlet with all of these examples and some resources so that you can have them. We went back to person-centered planning. You've got to focus on the strengths, interests, and passions. I don't know about you guys, but when he's talking about interest, if you don't use Sean's interest, he is not interested in what you're saying. You know, he does socially what we want to do, but we know it's inappropriate. I think he's got the world right, guys. I think he's got the world right. So we did that. We did person-centered planning again. It took us over a year to even get to a point to where we felt comfortable as a team. That teacher is now a great friend and one of Sean's biggest advocates. Now, all the way through middle and high school, we still had an administrator who was saying he needs to go there. He needs to go there. And she would tell paras and others, that mom is one of those moms that you want to avoid. Well, what she didn't know is I'd learned how to team build, and these people were my friends too now. They cared about my kid. They're going to tell me. Go ahead. So we finally built a team. It's not easy, guys, but you know, if you guys want strategies for building teams, that's what we do at Families Together. And I'm, you know, always happy to share some. But we had to move from isolation to connection. I used to say celebration, but it was connection we need. We all need connection. Go ahead. So the first thing we did was I had to share a vision of what Sean's good life looked like. Where are we going? We may be in kindergarten, we may be in second grade, we may be a senior in high school, but where are we going? Identify his strengths and passions. Find our people. Celebrate quirky, and I'm going to go through these. Explore your community, focus on family, create a safe space, be a part of a team, call Families Together, and breathe. You're not alone. Does that sound like a hard list? I mean, we're listening to all this scientific research and everything, and I'm going, sometimes it's as simple as letting him pour water out over and over and over in the sink. I don't care. So we at Families Together and a lot of agencies use what's called life course framework. We talk about a trajectory, all right? The good life. We want to go to the good life. What does that good life look like for Sean? But it's easier for me to start at what we don't want, okay? How are we going to avoid this stuff? I don't want him dependent on strangers. And the other piece of this, Sean's limited verbal skills. So he's got a team of people who are sharing where he's best, where he's happiest, what he likes. But if you've got a young person who's got that ability to tell you, make sure they're a part of this. And our team does this with families. But we didn't want him in a day program. And I can tell you part of that is I took him to a day program as a young adult. We sit there and we talk to the people. And Sean knew them. He went to school with some of them. We walked out the car and I said, Sean, do you want to spend part of your day there so mom can go to work? He started bawling and said, no, thank you. Now, I'm not, Leslie's going to have to cover her ears because I looked at him and said, if I have to stop work, I will. Because my baby wasn't going to do that. So then, think about the things your kid needs in their life. What are the things they need in their life? Sean needs horseback riding. He needs Wheel of Fortune. Hey, he needs to spend time in the community. He needs his family. He needs his devices, which he's probably got about 10 now, because you can't retire one when it starts not working right. But he likes to travel, he likes dad's car, he likes driving. He needs these things in his life to be happy. So identify that. Go ahead, Leslie. What does his good life look like? Sean's good life says live on a lake with family, have friends, own a boat and a horse, have a job I love, travel, and have great Wi-Fi. Isn't that a great life? I mean, hey, Sean, let me join you, babe. Let me be there with you. But what are we doing today to help him get to that good life? Okay. So we stopped and this is the good life. Every way along the way, we had to stop and think, what are we doing right now? Is it taking us to that good life? This is a picture of Sean in 5th grade for a science project. They counted the most pepperoni on the pepperoni pizza, brought pepperoni pizza to the school, and we had him paired with a peer who had limited parental participation, a dad who was working three jobs, single dad. Jonathan and Sean got what they needed to do this science project. Sean was the coolest kid in school. So what got in the way is if we had not fought for him to be a part of the general ed curriculum, now that doesn't mean he was always in the general ed. He was in the special ed when he needed to be in the classroom, and he was in the general education setting when he could be, when he was the safest. But these are things that got in the way over time. What are the things we've done, go ahead Leslie, to get him there? Inclusive education, birthday parties, family vacations. It's not rocket science, it's real life for us. And we got a new medical team. He has always been in the community in some way. I'm singing down the aisles of Walmart as we're shopping, and I can't sing, guys, but I don't care. My baby's happy. Of course, JP's looking at me, Mom, don't sing that again. Go ahead. So use the passions, the strengths and passions. We used Wheel of Fortune. For spelling, we did hangman on the board in 2nd grade. He's the greatest speller when you put it in the form of looks like Wheel of Fortune. Of course, we didn't hang a man, we hung a flower, because you can't hang a man in school. But we used it as a wax museum project in 5th grade. We used it to get him out of the house. We moved the dang TV out. Guys, that kind of dates you right there when you're having to take a TV outside because you don't have a device. But, Wheel of Fortune came to Nebraska Furniture Mart. We went. Use that strength. Use that passion. We still to this day, go ahead, Leslie. Swimming. Sean, his adaptive PE was swimming. He had been swimming from the time he was diagnosed with autism, because that's one of the biggest killers of a kid with autism is drowning. And so we wanted him to learn to swim. But we used swimming. He swam every day. Then he was on the high school swim team. Before you did the videos and everything goes out on YouTube and Facebook. But he swam like this. And everybody chanting, let him swim, go Sean, go. He's finished a minute after everybody else, but nobody cared. So, and then now he goes to the YMCA, he goes to the retirement center and sings happy birthday. And I'll talk about that. But the swimming at the YMCA, the reason I mentioned that is the women at the YMCA ask him to sing happy birthday because they've known him so long. Okay. So happy birthday is his passion. He's always been known as the birthday guy. All right, I'm going to say this. You cannot be ticked off singing happy birthday. Try it. Try to be angry and sing happy birthday. You can't do it. Sean is in the middle of the floor, kicking and screaming, headbutting everything in elementary school. Pairs are picking him up and carrying him. They're losing dignity, getting bruised. He's losing dignity. People are staring at him. A kid, he's saying something. A kid says, he's saying happy birthday. So all of a sudden they start singing happy birthday. He stands up. He walks down the hall to where he needs to be. The whole hallway. You walk in that school and Sean's having a rough day, the entire building is singing happy birthday. So we used it for, and we still to this day, trust me, Leslie and them will hear me singing it. Behavioral support, community involvement, social. Everybody wants Sean. This is limited verbal, but man, when he sings happy birthday, it's from his toes to his head. And blowing out the candle, better have a candle or better have a horn. Go ahead. So then, you gotta find your people. You gotta find your people. You see Leslie's up there as my people. I gotta have people. And that's, for me, one of the hardest things to do is find my people. Tyranny is the teacher here. But up there on the right, we talk about independence. Kids becoming independent. It's interdependent. We're all interdependent on each other. We depend on each other. That picture, one of his direct support workers asked if she could take him to Wyandotte High School, not our district, because she was volunteering with the forensics club. And I went, sure, why not? He's got to have it. He tries it. If he doesn't like it, you don't do it again. Well, Sean became the de facto coach for those kids who could not get in front of others and say their speech, because they knew if I said it to Sean, he is not going to judge me. He's going to listen, and then we're going to do our dance. So they were interdependent on Sean in the community, using his strength of just being there. And then the cafeteria ladies, Sean swindled every cafeteria lady in the school. I'm sure some of you guys do it too. He could go in the back in the cafeteria and get an apple, and the other kids are like, why does he get to do that? Because he's Sean. And that's his 30th birthday. This picture up on the right talked about the swimming at 2. We were at Fort Riley trying to teach him to swim, and he and both of my boys were screaming and clawing the soldiers who were trying to teach him to swim. And then Sean all of a sudden took off, and they're trying to figure out what to do. This young man said, I'll work with him. Guys, he was there because he was doing diversion and had to volunteer. I didn't know this. He became the volunteer of the year for the Post because of the work he did with Sean. They made a difference in each other's lives. Go ahead. Find your people. Family, guys, this is family. You got to focus on family. It's hard when you have another kiddo. But I'll tell you what, that picture on the bottom left there, Sean had brain surgery, standing out in the front yard in the pool with that bandana on his head. Kid comes up and says, your brother's brain damage. He's said the R word. JP looked at him, and I'm still trying to figure out how to explain to my family, why did you do this? Why did you do brain surgery? He said, he looked at the kid and said, you know what? It's kind of like when your Nintendo is on the wrong channel and the TV's on the wrong channel and it's fuzzy. Doctors went in and helped put his brain on the right channel. So all of a sudden, Sean becomes and JP become kings of the neighborhood because Sean's got a Nintendo in his brain. JP's friends wanted him to bring him for show and tell because he had a scar, looked like a baseball. So now it's cool. Picture on the middle there. Guys, Sean's not going to get in a lake. He's not going to put his feet on the bottom of the lake. He can't see the water. Oh, sure, he likes swimming. No, no, no. His brother says, Mom, you don't know if you don't let him try. Sean got in there, and you can tell he is happier than anybody could ever be. But we have to have that dignity of risk. Let them do it while they can fail. The way we did community integration was we would find like my friend, or we would hire somebody who would come and spend an hour with us, to where we would go to my husband's change of command or some event. Sean was there. He is our family. But then when Sean started to get a little antsy, wanted out of that stroller, she would take him, either go play at the park or take him home. He was there till he was and then once he was starting to get unsuccessful, he would leave, and the time extended. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. So explore your community. Find those people and places in your community. Sean works at an apple orchard in the summers. He loves to go there. He loves to eat more apples than he picks. But people go to that apple orchard because Sean works there. And they know that. So for social, this picture here is a parade. You can't even see Sean in there really unless you look close. This one, for his part of his transition, he went to a therapeutic riding center near us and watered and fed horses every morning as part of school, because we made that community connection. And then the other one was him at his dad's retirement, that he was there. We are a family. Okay, go ahead, Leslie. You have to create a safe space, guys. You need a safe space for yourself too, realistically. But we have to have a safe space. That picture on the left, Sean would go into the building, and we couldn't do math night at school or any of those kind of nights because Sean had to go into that special ed classroom, arrange the calendar. As you can tell, I don't know what the method behind that madness was, but that's what he wanted and he needed. So the janitor would open the door that night, let Sean in, arrange the calendar, Sean lock it, and then Sean would come out and, he would sit. He'd have some nachos and then we'd go home. But he was there. The next day, we did that at a dance one time, and the next day the girls all said they danced with him. And I'm like, he didn't even go into the dance. But so the picture on the right is a recent picture. Sean has to have his tablets lined up in certain places. In October, he had 5 seizures, was in the hospital for 9 days after a lacerated kidney. And when we got home and at this hospital, his tablets had to be on a certain space. We had to move him to the basement. And so we moved everything to keep him safe. I promised myself when we moved into our new house that he was not going to take over my coffee table and he was not going to take over my bar. Well, guess what? He did. But he's happy. And you know what? If you want to see my house, make an appointment. If you want to see me and family, go ahead. This one is just to illustrate, if there's Coke anywhere, Sean will be there. He bellies up to the bar to get a Coke or a dark cola. So celebrate quirky. The only one I'm really going to point out on this is from the time Sean was little. Okay, guys, you've all heard verbal stem, right? It's making those noises again. We need to extinguish those noises. Well, what we did was when we walked into a store, Sean would let out one of his verbal stems. Now, I wish we'd have worked on the volume a little bit better, but to this day, we can walk in and I'll say, hey, Sean, what are you singing today? Now, we go into the store and he does one of those, and he's a big guy. People don't stare. They say, what are you singing today, Sean? That's a great song. We were at a store, and this woman comes up. She's standing in front of us. Sean walks up, and he lets out a loud one. And she startles, I actually startled, but she startles and she turns and she steps a couple inches back. And I looked at him and I said, Sean, that's a great song, bud, but you might want to turn the volume down a little bit. We have to say turn the volume down, don't say be quiet. Turn the volume down. She steps closer and she said, I do like that song. Educating people in the moment. We didn't ever educate the community on autism. we educated him about Sean and how to celebrate him and support him. This was the last, when we had a snowstorm one time, and I said, go get what you need. Go ahead. So this is Sean now, the good life, guys. His good life. He's, happy birthday, right? Right? Okay. He was the best man in his brother's wedding in front of 250 people. I said he can't do it. JP, this is your day. Mom, you don't know if you don't let him try. We had all the backups in place. And his toast, which he surprised his brother with, was singing Happy Wedding Day, leading 250 people. So you have to look at this. He's gotten to see Wheel of Fortune live twice. Got to spin the wheel. He's in Kansas City, guys. You know? And Dad's car. People said his brother said he would never drive. Well, guess what? He's driving a riding lawnmower. Now, I'm not going to tell you how many trees have cuts in them right now, but he's working on it. But he's happy. The picture, he was working at Casey's stocking coolers, right around Coke, right? Until the medical issue we had. Okay, go ahead. So one last thought, okay? Sean had a job at Legends Toyota. Guys, if you like Toyotas or Hondas, you go to Legends Toyota and Honda. And I don't have a Honda or a Toyota. But Sean, we walked in to get interviewed for a job, and he, myself, his VR specialist, VR counselor, his direct support worker, we're all sitting there, and we said, he needs a job wiping fingerprints off of the cars. In the back, or no, I'm sorry, he needs a job drying the cars. In the back of my mind, I'm going, this kid, anything that's perceived as cleaning is a behavior. You know, he is not a cleaner. And so he said, well, that's not going to work. And I'm like, oh, check this one off our box. I'm not coming here again. And he said, because I don't have, that only happens every 2 weeks. I need somebody to dust the fingerprints off the cars in the showroom. I want Sean to come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays to do that. And I said, but what you don't understand, I'm almost done, Sean, literally, I'm almost done. So what I told her, I said, what you don't understand that he likes to sing very loudly when he works. He will get in your face and say, do your share. Everybody do your share. He's a big guy. Anybody know where that comes from? Yep, now you're gonna be singing it all day. So clean up, everybody do your share. Everybody do your share. He said if they don't like his singing, they don't need to shop here, or they can shop at a different time. Okay? So 6 months later, after we do all the behavior therapies and try the different communication devices, it's not working. He's still anxious. He's still upset. So I sent a note in to Deuce, the owner, and I said, I'm sorry, right place, right people, wrong job. Sean can't do this. Deuce sent me an email back and said, never, ever, ever let people tell you what they think. Never think what you think is a barrier impede his ability to be employed, because he taught us more in those 6 months about team building than any professional I've ever brought to my building. And he said, we start our meeting saying, do your share, do your share. You do your share, I'll do my share. And so, I mean, guys, quirky, to me, we have to celebrate. We have to celebrate those strengths. I could stand here and I could tell you the behaviors. When we had a meltdown yesterday, we don't know why. He was hitting himself in the head, and all of a sudden it's dinosaurs. I don't know about dinosaurs, but I'm going to have to learn about dinosaurs. But we walked him through it. Go ahead, Melissa. If you, at this QR code are some examples of Sean's person-centered planning, the life course stuff I showed you, plus some others, as well as some resources on team building. There's also a link up there to all the families, not all, but a lot of families together resources. And I created this handout, which is there as well. Go ahead. It's on the next slide too. That's also here. But understand you're right. If you need to understand your rights, and I'm not just talking about IEPs, I'm talking about 504s, I'm talking about, navigating those systems in that school with your kid with a disability. Learn about team building strategies. You want to talk about person-centered planning. You want to talk to another parent or find resources. Guys, the reason I'm standing here, and I will go to my grave saying this, the reason I'm standing here and the reason my son is who he is today is because I talked to another parent. I made that call to families together, and I was no longer alone. And so if you guys can do that, I mean, please, it's not easy, but man, they're worth it. So I am over my time. So if there's any questions or any thoughts, Leslie, there's a handout over here that also has more information about Families Together as well as our contact information. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I'm gonna do a quick infomercial for some of you said that you have like 10, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds on up. We have a really fun, we call it the Chase Fest, and it's coming up on April 29th or 28th. It's the last Saturday of April. And I highly encourage you to check into it and come there with your sons or daughters. They have so much fun. It's unique. We have an amazing national speaker coming in. His name's Leia Holley, and he's just phenomenal. But then we have some sessions for the young people there that are around making their own podcasts, learning how to make music. Gosh, I can't remember, but they're cool things, because we have people that aren't our age that work for Families Together too, and
Yeah.
they've really created some cool things around some of this learning that we want everybody to have. So if you're in this area, check it out. Would love to see you there.
And you can find information about it on our webpage. Just go to the events. And I know I'm just going to ask for 2 seconds so I don't lose my job. Can you guys click that QR code and do a survey for us real quick? Because our funders kind of
Is
like
that
that.
what that is? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's April 26th.
April 26th. Yeah, less than
26th is the last Saturday? Wow, I was way off.
What did you
Okay.
say?
I don't know, 28th, 29th. But
Yeah, if you guys could do that, I for some reason our grantors like to know how we did.
And you can look for us on social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook, and the Chase team has information out there. They do all kinds of little videos about the Chase Fest. Yeah.
Come on in, guys.
But thanks, everyone.
I was asked to tell you guys again about the QR
Oh, yeah.
for the evaluation survey as well.
Yeah, there's
Make
a
sure you guys do that one.
evaluation for the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Right?
I gotta say,
I was like, no, that's probably not. You're going to the 15, so probably.
I'm sorry.
You cried a good one.
I'm sorry.
I was-
You're welcome.
It makes me cry.
You're welcome. I'm glad.
Thank you. I'm a grandma too, so.
As long as you, I share his story, hope in hopes that others will gain from it.
Good.
Thank you.
My son CJ gets that. Singular.